we've got our NLU model ready in a state that we can expect that when it gets a utterance that looks like this, that we're able to say, well, the intent here is to look, and we've got ourselves an entity over here, and this entity over here represents an object that we can indeed interact with. So the first thing that I would like to do now is just make sure that I'm able to give appropriate responses whenever a user is looking at objects. And it should be highlighted that this is more involved than using a standard utter command. And that's because what I need to reply really depends on the entities that are in the text, but potentially also on the game state. So to generate an appropriate response here, I will need to write custom Python code, which also means that I'll be using Rasa actions. And because I'm introducing these actions, I will also have to update my domain.yaml file, as well as my stories.md file. So I'll make these changes, and I'll only be focusing on the looking intent. Later on, we'll add some more. So what I've got here is the same nlu.md file that I had in the previous video, but what I've now also done is I've made changes to the actions.py file. I'll just make this a little bit bigger. And what I've got here is a dictionary with descriptions of things that you can look at. And the idea is that if we detect that window is indeed an entity, then we have a description that we can then show the user here. And I've done the same thing for box and for key and for all of the objects that I think I will have in the room for now. Then what I'm doing is I am making this custom action that is going to handle the look intent. There's a few important parts. For starters, we've got this name over here, and this is something that we'll have to refer to later in our domain.yaml and stories.md file. And the other thing that I've done is I've defined this run method over here. And the way that this mainly works is I've got this tracker available to me in this custom action, and that tracker has information about the conversation so far. In particular, what it allows me to do is it allows me to grab the latest message, and from the latest message, I can grab all the detected entities over here. And what I'm doing is I'm looping over all of these entities, and I'm saying, hey, if the entity is of type object, then what I would like you to do is to fetch the appropriate description from the dictionary above, and then give that to the user. What I'm also doing is I'm keeping track whether or not I've already spoken something, and if there is no entity detected, or if the entities that I've detected are of the inappropriate entity type, then what I'm doing is I'll be asking the user if they can repeat what they're trying to look at. I'm trying to fail gracefully here, essentially. Now, if I want to use this action, there's some other things that I gotta do. The main thing to remember again is that this action has a name, action look, and what I've done is in my domain.yaml file, I haven't just listed my intents and entities, but I've also added the action over here. That way, Rasa is aware that there's this custom action that we have to use. And what I've also done is made a little change to the stories.md file. It's really basic at this phase, but I just want to check if this look action actually works. So I've made two happy paths where I'm just greeting and looking, and it's the only thing that I'm really doing. Now, a final thing that I have to do if I want to interact with these custom actions is that I have to configure my endpoints.yaml such that Rasa can find where these custom actions are running. Now, to interact with the changes that I've made, what I've got to do is I got to run Rasa train one more time, and I've already done this. So the next thing that I could go ahead and do is I can run the Rasa shell. However, I also need to run my actions as well, so I will also run Rasa run actions, and this will automatically pick up this actions.py file. So if I were now to type hello, we see that that works. What I can now do is I can say look at the window, and then it gives me a text back, which we can confirm is the text that we had in this dictionary over here. What I can also do is I can say something like look at the window and the door. And this is actually kind of nice. Typically in these text-based adventure games, you can interact with one item at a time. But we see that because we are using the tech stack of Rasa, we can just grab 2 entities in one go. That's cool, we get that kind of for free here. But let's now also try to look at something that doesn't exist. So something like look at the fire hydrant. And now we see that we're indeed trying to fail gracefully because it's not detecting an entity in this utterance. And then it's trying to say, hey, I think you're trying to look at something, but could you please repeat what you just said? So that's nice, we've got our first custom action working.